Imperfect Thriving, Episode 44, Confident and Killing It with Tiwalola Ogunlesi. If you feel like you could use a little support on this journey called life, I would love for you to join our free Imperfect Thriving community through our @Imperfect Thriving Facebook group and plug into our group video chats, challenges, and experience the support of others just like you, encouraging and nudging each other toward our very best lives. I'm Kathryn Ely, former attorney turned licensed counselor and coach. Oh yeah, and recovering perfectionist. It wasn't long ago that my self-criticism and fear kept me from having the self-worth, confidence, and courage to make my life my own. Through life lessons learned and by going back to school in my 40s, I am finally enjoying my life in a way I never thought possible, and it is amazing. I want you right here with me. No need for you to go back to school either. I created this podcast to show you the way to the imperfect thriving kind of life, based on what you value, filled with self-worth, confidence, way more joy, and no more regrets. So let's go.
I remember when I was 16 and I didn't love myself, and here we are again, another generation after me telling me the same thing, that they don't love and believe in themselves. And I said, I can't sit back and watch this happen. I need to do something about it. And so I went on Instagram, I recorded a 1-minute video on my phone about how important it is to love and believe in yourself.
What does your brain tell you about you? For most of my life, my brain told me I was not enough. In most areas of my life. Not enough personality, not funny enough, not engaging enough, not likable enough. And I believed my brain, and I acted in accordance with these beliefs. I held myself back from most things that I really wanted to try because I thought, since I'm not enough, I can't do those things. On this week's show, we have Tiwalola Ogunlesi. Tiwa, as she has allowed me to call her, is a confidence coach specializing in positive psychology and the founder of Confident and Killing It. Tiwa shares her own limiting beliefs with us and how she went from insecure to confident and killing it. And in this episode, you will learn what caused Tiwa's insecurities about herself, the example set for her by her grandmother and her mother, what society teaches women that breeds insecurity and limiting beliefs, and why she is a self-proclaimed self-love activist. Welcome to the show, Tiwalola. I am so excited to have you talking with me on the Imperfect Thriving podcast all the way from London.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me as well. I'm so glad to be here.
I cannot wait to dig into your story. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you arrived at the idea for Confident and Killing It.
Yeah, so I was quite an insecure teenager growing up. I had a really negative mind, and it wasn't until I was about 21 that I started my self-love journey, and I saw how magical and powerful it was to finally believe in yourself and have a mind that empowers you rather than a mind that sabotages you. So when I was graduated from university and I was working in a job that I hated, I said, there has to be more to my life than this. I'm being stuck in a job that I hate. Went on a quest to look for something a bit more purpose-driven, and I decided to volunteer as a youth leader with teenage girls, and I asked them what they wanted to get out of in life, and they all wrote it down on a piece of paper. And then as I opened the pieces of paper at home, I began to see a lot of them were saying, like, I wish I was more confident. I wish I loved myself more, over and over and over again. And I was like, enough is enough. I remember when I was 16 and I didn't love myself, and here we are again, another generation after me telling me the same thing, that they don't love and believe in themselves. And I said, I can't sit back and watch this happen. I need to do something about it. And so I went on Instagram, I recorded a 1-minute video on my phone about how important it is to love and believe in yourself. and I put it out there. And, videos led to events, led to Confident and Killing It being born, and really just kind of starting a revolution.
Well, that is absolutely amazing. And you are so ahead of the curve, really, because it took me until my late 40s to love myself.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, it makes all the difference in the world. If I could give everybody one thing, that would be the one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything becomes magical after that, right?
Yeah.
So I agree. I see that in women of all ages, not just teens, right? What do you think leads to so many young women and teens not liking themselves, being super critical of themselves, and not having any confidence or self-love?
Yeah. So society plays a really big part in that. Capitalism feeds off women's insecurities.
Yes.
All the brands, the big organizations, the big corporates, as long as women feel insecure, we keep buying things to make us feel better. The lipsticks, the makeup, the hair creams, the this, the that, the procedures, the Botox. Everyone is benefiting as long as we feel insecure because we keep using external things to help us feel better about ourselves. And the gag is external things don't give you worth. Your worth is intrinsic and it comes from inside of you. So realizing that the messages we hear from a really young age are always telling us how we are not enough and we need this and then we will be enough. And so women begin to internalize those messages as they are not good enough as they are. And that begins to affect their sense of confidence and their self-worth. So I think the media has played a really, really big part in this, putting out subliminal messages of a woman's place and what a woman is capable of doing or not. And that's where a lot of people pick these up from. And then also it gets passed down from generation to generation to generation, right? My grandma, she was a very confident woman, but, she would look in the mirror and pretend to give herself a facelift. My mom would see that, and then she would look in the mirror and squeeze her thighs. And then I saw my mom squeezing her thighs, and I grew up and my thighs looked like my mom's thighs. So I was like, oh, if she squeezed her thighs, that means there must be something wrong with my thighs. If I hadn't broken that chain, I would then go on and do the same thing with my daughters. And this is how it spreads.
Yes, I could not agree more. And I don't know exactly how it is for you and where you grew up, but in the South, in the United States, there's very much still even how a woman should act.
Mm-hmm.
We are taught this from a very young age. Women should be sweet, nice,
mm-hmm.
pretty, and quiet.
Yeah.
Not confident,
mm-hmm.
outspoken, natural. So it's modeled by the women that come before us for sure. And it's also taught by the women and the men
mm-hmm.
who are bringing us up. What is your experience like? Was it like that?
So I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria, and Nigeria is one of those countries that really does not support the advancement of women at all. And it has very strict social norms about what women can wear, what they can do. And everything is really about submitting to the man in the household and, those kinds of messages. But luckily enough, I grew up in a family where my grandma wasn't like that and my mom wasn't like that. They were very independent women, go-getters. They started their own businesses. My grandma left a really abusive relationship. So I have grown up seeing what it looks like for women to be unstoppable and to go after what they want in life and to create their own lane. And so I knew that that was possible for me, which is why role models are so important and which is why diversity and visibility representation is so important, because we need to see women doing incredible things, because then it inspires younger women that they can do the same. So I've been quite lucky in terms of I haven't really grown up having any very strict social norms that were limiting me as a girl. But growing up in Nigeria in general, I did see those things happen.
So I want to dig into that a little bit more. Your grandmother and mother sound amazing. What do you think it was about your grandmother, especially 2 generations before you, that she was able to create her own path and break free from what society was expecting.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm glad you asked this because the story about my grandmother is a really incredible story. And I don't really share this story on podcasts. So you're a lucky one. So my grandma, she passed away about 5 years ago, but she was a Scottish woman born and raised in Scotland. And she came from a very, very strict family. And so she was actually living in Oxford in England, working as a librarian. And she always had this sense of adventure in her and curiosity. She was really into history. So she would read loads of books and just had that kind of like escapism, adventure and excitement and doing her own thing. So my grandfather, who was a Nigerian man, happened to be in Oxford studying. And he was in the library the day my grandmother was in the library. And so they met. And they locked eyes, they kind of fell in love, and he was like, come to Nigeria with me. And yeah, this was back in 1960 something. So she's like, whoa, okay. And she writes back to her family in Scotland that she met a Nigerian man and she wants to move to Nigeria. And of course, like interracial marriages were not a thing at the time. Like my grandma is a white woman, my grandpa was a black man, not to talk about moving to Africa to live with him in like, you don't know anyone there. And her family were like, if you do that, like literally that's the end. And she decided that was where her heart was calling her. So she followed her heart. She moved to Nigeria, literally in a town in the outskirts of Lagos. She started a new life there, couldn't speak the language, but she made a name for herself and she built an incredible business. She was a fashion designer. So she created clothes for like the first lady and loads of influential women in Nigeria. And she introduced a lot of new clothing techniques and tie-dye techniques to the women in Lagos. So she was a pioneer. And that kind of blood of adventure and pioneering women just kind of runs through my family. So yes, that's why I am who I am today.
Okay, that story just gave me chills.
Yeah.
I mean, so amazing. And thank you for sharing that with us because that is really cool. I love that. So did your mom pretty much follow in her mother's footsteps?
Yeah, so my grandpa wanted my mom to be a lawyer and she did one day of law school and she was like, no way.
Smart woman.
Yeah. So she decided to work with my grandma for a while, building their fashion business. And then my mom went off to create her own clothing line for children. And now she has about 20 stores all across Nigeria. It's kind of like a Gap Kids, like that's kind of what her store is like. And my mom faced a lot of hardship when she was starting a business because the banks wouldn't give her loans because they were like, you want a loan to a woman, not to talk about a woman who wants to sell children's clothes. Like no one's going to buy children's clothes. But the funny thing is there was no market for children's clothes and children need clothes. So actually she's now built like $1 million business from children's clothes when nobody even thought she was going to sell a thing. She has now created this empire selling children's clothes. So seeing women go after what they want, build empires, be pioneers is something I have constantly grown up seeing. And like when I would come back from school, I would just sit in my mom's office and watch her work. And when I was about 7, I had this recurring dream where I would go into an elevator and take the lift up to the top floor. And I was wearing a suit and a briefcase. And that was at age 7 or 10 or something. So yeah, I'm so grateful for the women I come from.
Y'all can't see Tiwa, but we're doing this over Zoom and I can just picture you doing that. On with that briefcase. I bet that was adorable. Yeah. So what's the name of your mom's store so I can look it up?
Yeah, it's called Rough and Tumble.
Oh, cute. So you come from very strong stock.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about, you're a self-titled self-love activist. I help clients all the time go through sort of a metamorphosis from self-criticism to self-acceptance and all the way to self-love. Mm-hmm. Why is self-love the key? Why is it so important to self-esteem and self-confidence?
Because what you believe about yourself is the foundation to every single thing that you do. your mindset is so, so important. And so if you have a mind that sabotages you, you will stay stuck in life and be in a negative place. Whereas if you have a mind that loves you and empowers you and encourages you to go after what your heart truly desires, you will live the life that you really want, and you will live a life of freedom. So self-love isn't just like happy clappy, hey everyone, I love myself. No, it's like this in-depth belief that you are worthy and your worth does not depend on what anyone else thinks of you, the color of your skin, how much money you have. Like, you matter simply because you exist. And that in itself is a revolution.
Yes, that is beautiful. And I work with a lot of women who are perfectionists, and I think perfectionism oftentimes comes from not enough.
Yeah,
I must always do more to prove my worth, not just to others, but mainly myself. I feel like with perfectionism, we are trying to teach ourselves that we are worth it. And it's amazing, kind of what you were talking about, the teens, you were seeing a pattern, right? I want to be more confident. I want to like myself. I see a pattern with women, and not just women actually, that come in my office, that what they want most in life when I take them back to their childhood is unconditional love and acceptance. And when we work through the fact that you don't have to get that from other people, you can let go of wanting that from everyone else, your father, your mother, whoever it was that you thought didn't give it to you. Start on that journey to have the unconditional love for yourself. It's like freedom.
Yeah, absolute game changer. A lot of women internalize that. Like, if I didn't get love from my parents, that means there must be something wrong with me.
Yes.
But at some point in life, we have to let go of those limiting beliefs that we had of ourselves when we were a child. And I always say to people, what happens in one moment does not need to define your whole lifetime.
Yeah,
you know, it really does.
And it does. People let it. And I had a moment like that. I had a moment when I was young where my dad made a comment, and he was a wonderful dad. He was a great dad. But I don't know exactly what we were talking about to begin with. And that's when he said something along the lines of, yeah, you're the smart, nerdy one, and your sister is the popular one who everybody likes. So I doubled down on smart and was scared of everything else. I was negative about myself with everything else. Do you have any idea what it was for you that led to your insecurities as a teenager?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I have a younger sister who's 11 months younger than me. So growing up, we were super close. And all of a sudden, when we started becoming teenagers, she was growing super tall and I wasn't. And she was one of those people who could eat whatever she wanted and not do a single bit of exercise. And I was the one where, like, I was getting curves, my thighs were getting bigger. I would be eating salads and exercising so much, but I'm just not a stick thin person. And that was her body shape, and my body shape is different. So I didn't understand that there were different body shapes. I just thought the goal was to be tall, stick thin, thin legs, and flat tummy, and that's it. So I hated my body because it didn't look like hers, and I was constantly comparing myself to her. And the thing about comparison is that it is such a big driver of negative thoughts, and it feeds into all the other areas of your life. So from feeling like I wasn't skinny enough, I thought I had no gifts and no talents whatsoever because, again, my mom was creative, my dad was creative, my sister was creative, my brother is a music producer. And it was like, oh, what's Tiwa good at? Like, oh, she's smart, she gets good grades. And so I just thought I wasn't creative. I had no special gifts and talents. And I used to tell myself that story all the time, kind of just being a boring person with nothing special about me. And now that I look back and I know all the talent and gifts that I have, I'm like, how did I ever think I was not creative enough? How did I ever think that I was not talented? Your mind will often, like, it's a lie, basically. It just is a lie. And you have to be aware of the lies you tell yourself and challenge them.
Yes, our brains, they're not always helpful to us.
No.
And everything that they tell us are not truths, but we hang on to them as if they are true.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how do you help young women, older women, all women, discover what it is that they are telling themselves and let go of it and bring them closer to self-love?
So the first thing I really say is when your negative thoughts come in, first of all, you have to be aware that your thoughts are sabotaging you. And that was my most recent podcast episode, is your mind sabotaging you? Because a lot of people just take their negative mind as it is what it is. That's just the way my mind is. But actually, no, it's not. You can change that. So the first thing is to actually wake up to the fact that your mind doesn't have to stay stuck the way it is, and you can actually program your mind to empower you rather than to criticize you all the time. So that's the first step. The second step is when your negative thoughts come into your mind, you have to learn to challenge them. It's like when all of a sudden we think something bad about ourselves, we just believe it just like that. My mind told me I had no gifts and no talents, and I was just like, oh, okay, I guess I have no gifts and no talents. But we need to learn to challenge those limiting beliefs with the truth of who we actually are. And now this is why it's so important to know your strengths, because when you know what you're good at doing, when you love and believe in yourself, you have something to say back to those negative thoughts.
Yes.
Because there's usually so much evidence that you are amazing and caring and loving and talented, and so little evidence that you have no talent whatsoever. So focus on where the evidence lies. Focus on the truth about who you actually are and challenge the negativity when it comes into your mind.
Yes, it is almost like when we have that one negative thought that we choose to hang on to and define ourselves, it's like a lens that we put on the end of the camera, and we see everything in the world through that lens, and we sort of let go of all of the good. We dismiss compliments, we don't pay attention to them, and we just look for confirmation of what we believe is true.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why we all have a negativity bias, where somebody will say 5 nice things to us and 1 negative thing, and all we will do is focus on that 1 negative thing they said and throw all the nice 5 things out the window. When you do that, it makes you only focus on the negative things people have said about you, but actually don't throw all the truth out the window. Go searching for the truth. And that was what I did. I was like, oh, my mind is a battlefield. My positive and negative thoughts are fighting for my attention. Okay, how do I win this? I need to go learn about the good things about myself. So when the negative thoughts come, I have my positive thoughts ready to fire something back at it. And that's why you have to put in that work to figure out what you love about yourself and what is good about you, so that you can express that and focus on that instead of the one tiny negative thing that you don't like about yourself.
Yes. So I love the battlefield analogy for sure. How did you make that journey? How did you do that? Did you do it on your own? Did someone else help you?
Oh, no, I definitely got help. So my mom gave me this book, 15 Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. And in that book, he spoke about how growth is intentional. And you don't just wake up one day and you're the best version of yourself. Like, that is something you actively have to work towards. And I'm a Christian, so somebody also recommended Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer. And she also talks about, even in the Bible, like biblically mentions about how your mind is a battlefield, but you have a spirit of love, of peace, and of a calm mind, and you have the strength to take every negative thought captive. And I had never heard that before. And so the faith and the science were both saying the same thing about, yes, your mind is going to be messy, but you have the power of choice to decide what are you going to focus on. And that, what for me was my biggest awakening, because I just thought, oh, my mind is my mind. There's nothing I can do about it. But that's not true. Your mind is like elastic. You can program it to work for you. It's more like a computer than just like a block of cement that you're stuck with for the rest of your life.
Yes, absolutely. I love the combination of faith and science. That's really great. So do you have any examples or stories of some of the most like compelling self-love transformations you've seen with your clients or that you've experienced?
Oh, I have loads. So for me, I've always said, like, I want to share my confidence and my joy, not to make everyone think, oh, look at me, I'm so perfect, but to help women see that if I can have it, they can have it too. And so after one of my events, somebody wrote in the feedback like, Tiwa, you're such a boss, but you made me feel like I'm a boss too. And that for me was just ultimate goals, because it's not just about me feeling like a boss. It's about my bossness making other women feel like they're a boss as well. And I've had so many stories about women who have gotten their dream jobs, quit their full-time job to run their business, who have put themselves up for a promotion and they've gotten it. Women who have just said, enough is enough. It's time for me to invest in myself and work on my mind. I get so many messages about women starting things because they have interacted with me. And that is the ultimate goal.
Oh, yes. That is amazing. I really love that. You make a really good point there that when you find self-love, I think people think that that has a lot to do with maybe your relationships, your intimate love relationships and things like that. You have to really find yourself and love yourself before you get in another relationship. But it affects every single aspect of your life. I would say, especially your professional life.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go for anything. You don't take opportunities. You don't even see opportunities until you like yourself.
Yes. That is something I always used to say, because people are like, oh, there are no opportunities for women. There are no opportunities for women. And I don't think it's that there are no opportunities. Opportunities are in abundance. It's oftentimes that women don't have the confidence to go after those opportunities because their minds are constantly sabotaging them. So your thoughts lead to your feelings, and your feelings lead to the actions that you take or you don't take. So if you have a mind that is super negative, it makes you feel anxious and worried and stressed, and you retreat. Whereas if you have a mind that is positive and empowering, you feel confident in yourself and you go after what you want. So that's why it is so important to fix your mind first, because from there, that's where you can have the dream house and the dream car and the best job and the promotion and the business. But if you do not fix your mind, you can't have any of those things.
Gosh, you are absolutely right, because when you're in that negative place, you're focused on everything that you don't want to happen.
Exactly.
You don't even see that you have a choice about what you want to happen.
Yes.
So I very actively work with my clients about recognizing how many little choices they make throughout the day, whether they're intentional or not intentional, so that they realize that they do have some sort of power within them.
That's so good. Yeah, I love that. And then also like the fear of the future and fear in general, a lot of my clients really struggle with that. And I always say, like, it's the same thing we're saying about the power of choice. Don't go into your future and think of the worst possible outcome. It's
so what if?
It hasn't even happened yet. What if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if this? What if they judge me? And I'm like, but what if they don't? And they're like, oh, I never thought about it. And I'm like, if you focus on the negativity, you get more of that. So don't focus on what you don't want. Focus on what you do want.
Oh, I absolutely love that. So I have a couple of questions that I like to wrap up with at the end, but I'm wondering if we could just do a quick, fun little lightning round.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I just pulled these out of the air, so some of them you may say neither, and that's fine too. Lizzo or Alicia Keys?
Oh, this is difficult. Lizzo.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm both. I have my days. I have my Tiwa time where I'm not in the mood to speak to anyone, and then I have like my Beyonce days. So
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Is there like most embarrassing moment that you have from your past that you can now laugh about?
I don't think so. I think I've kind of blocked it out of my memory. I try not to replay embarrassing moments over and over again in my mind.
Oh, that's smart.
So I really can't think of any embarrassing moments on the spot.
So you might have already told us this, but a book that has changed your life.
Okay, can I give you 3 books?
Absolutely.
Okay, so 15 Laws of Growth by John Maxwell, for one. Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani. That's another really good one on mindset. And then, Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer.
Love that. 3 is always better than 1. Favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
Be in bed, cuddled up with like a little fluffy toy and like a chai latte and watching movies.
Oh, sounds good. Do you have a favorite movie?
Yes, Moana, Disney movie.
Awesome.
Best movie ever created.
Next place you want to visit in the world?
Bali. I really want to visit Bali.
I think the world is trying to send me there too, because
really?
I've spoken to my personal assistant has been to Bali. I spoke to someone else the other day who dreams of going to Bali. And now you're the third person. I got to get to Bali.
I have to get to Bali too. Wow.
Maybe I'll see you there.
Yeah.
One positive thing that you will take away from COVID times?
Loads of positive stuff. This year has taught me so much about myself. But I think the main thing is you will never lose when you bet on yourself. Because I was getting so many cancellation emails when lockdown happened. We went into a full lockdown here in London and all my bookings got cancelled. And I hit rock bottom. But I had to say to myself, like, this is not what I want my story to be. I want to see growth in my business. I want to see things take off. I want to be able to still impact women. And that's why it's so important to invest in things that people cannot take away from you. They can take away your job opportunities. They can take away all sorts of things, but they can't take away you believing in yourself. They can't take away your confidence and your creativity. So the real positive thing for me is learning to invest in things that people cannot take away from you.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's great. I love that.
Thank you.
And you have something for our listeners today.
Oh, yes, the monthly wins tracker. Absolutely. So this is like my favorite tool to help me celebrate myself and to overcome comparison and imposter syndrome. This is like the best thing. So every single month I go in and I celebrate myself by keeping a track of all my accomplishments. So my small wins and my big wins. So it could be from I tidied my room or I redecorated my house. I scored Google as my first big corporate client, that sort of thing. So keeping track of your accomplishments is so important because it sends like positive vibes to your brain, and you also get to look to your future with confidence and optimism that if you have done it before, you can do it again. So it's a really good way to be more confident and to boost your self-esteem. And also when you find yourself comparing yourself to other people, go back and look at your accomplishments and realize how far you've come. And you don't have to compare yourself to what someone else is doing because you are in your own lane and you're doing already so many different amazing things. And that is worthy of celebrating and focusing on.
That's great. I will make sure that we include a link to that in the show notes for sure. That's awesome. Thank you for that. So I like to wrap up every podcast episode by asking my guest, what is one suggestion that you would have for all of us to do today to move closer to our best lives? One imperfect action.
Okay. So I was reading a lot about positive psychology, and I would say write down 3 things that went well for you every single day. That is an absolute game changer, especially in the kind of year we've all been having. Practicing gratitude is a game changer.
Yes.
So I would say to change your mindset, to keep you positive and believing, write down 3 things that went well for you every single day.
Well, I love that suggestion. I second that motion. I want everyone to go out today and write 3 things that went well today for you and keep that up tomorrow and the next day and the next. Thank you so much for such a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you, Kathryn.
Okay, I hope we can work again together in the future.
Yes.
And until next week, I will see everyone back here. If you are enjoying this podcast, would you take a moment to go to iTunes and subscribe? It is so easy to do, and it would mean a lot. Imperfect Thriving is a part of the Practice of the Practice podcast network, a network of podcasts seeking to help you thrive imperfectly. To hear other podcasts like the Bomb Mom Podcast, Beta Male Revolution, or Empowered and Unapologetic, go to practiceofthepractice.com/network. This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to the subject matter covered. This is given with the understanding that neither the host, Practice of the Practice, or guests are providing legal, mental health, or other professional information. If you need a professional, I encourage you to reach out to one.